it's almost like being a... Hey, good afternoon. If you're wondering why there's lots of faces here, faces, not masks, around us here, it's because these people in Portsmouth, we think that women have the right to go in a female-only space and not see a penis. We think your children have a right to go into school and not be told that they can choose their biological sex. We think that children have the right in this country to grow up not being told that their bodies are wrong and being encouraged into a fascistic, totalitarian, immature cult. The people opposite think that men like Sarah Jane Baker, who is a violent criminal who ate his own testicles, they think that he has a right to be in spaces with your daughter. That's what they're protesting. In fact, it's even more sinister because usually they have no idea what they're protesting. They just don't want little old ladies like me to be able to speak in public. They would rather women like me, probably like you, they would rather that you were too afraid to come out in public because they'll tell your employer that you're a bad person. Men like that are not welcome in women-only spaces at all, ever. Now, the children behind have been told, some of them have been told they pass as the opposite sex, but we'll leave that aside. The women and men behind have been told that they're in a legitimate civil rights movement. That actually their civil right as a man to enter a woman's space totally outweighs a woman's right to go in a female-only space without any men there. And we are here primarily to say in public, no woman has a penis, no man has a vagina, there's no such thing as non-binary, and transitioning children is profound abuse. So, Let Women Speak started as a small collection of us visiting the Speaker's Corner in the tradition of what I like to call free speech. And let me tell you what free speech is. It is the right to be able to open your mouth and say words right up until the point that you incite violence. Now, those words will be that I think any man who uses a women's toilet is a raging pervert. That's permitted. You're permitted to say really quite hateful things under the protection of free speech. We just ask that unlike their side, we don't ask you to encourage people to punch anyone in the face. Or we don't ask you to bring signs that say that you want people to die, unlike their side. So when people ask me what is my limit on free speech, it is right up until the point of incitement to violence, and then that is covered by British law, which is quite right, which is you cannot incite anyone to commit an act of violence. But up until that, I'm happy with whatever you want to say. There is absolutely no limit, because I'm a free speech absolutist, which I choose to test all the time. And I believe so far I've passed, unlike many of them. Okay, so Let Women Speak creates a space in which women are allowed to speak. This is the rules of engagement here. You come and you speak. You put your big girl pants on, knowing that there may be some consequences or repercussions that will be totally immoral and wrong in a democratic society, that just saying that you don't want your daughter to have to compete on a rugby field against some hulking great big bloke. But there may well be consequences. But right now, I think I'm left with absolutely zero cares about that, because the consequences of staying silent are so great. So, come up and say your bit. We encourage each and every one of you who wants to speak to do so. It's really important, as many voices and opinions on this issue and how it impacts you is really important for you never know who's listening. And we do that by, we put it out to everybody online, and I can tell you, and you've probably seen some of them, you will move someone that you may never meet, you may never understand the profound impact you have upon their lives. You don't know that your story doesn't resonate with theirs. You don't know if you encourage someone to speak up in their own lives. Because right now, despite the victories that we may have had on this side, it is still really scary for women to come and speak in public. It is still quite extraordinary that our police forces are captured, our NHS is captured, our schools are basically propaganda arms of the state, and our banks and our building societies may well close your bloody account. I can tell you that I have been censored by Patreon, by Mumsnet. I was banned from Twitter for well over 4 years. I'm not allowed to sell t-shirts on Teespring. There are certain manufacturers that are happy to take your money for the last 5 years, but will no longer. So it takes each and every one of us to make this okay. I did say I was going to give a little prize for the best sign, and it's a toss-up between you two. I might have a collection of hands in a minute, and we'll bring you up in amongst the speeches, and we'll let everybody decide. But I just want to say to you boys that have come, and you're supportive, you support people, otherwise known as women, your time is up, because we're no longer afraid to speak. Even in this city, where some of your councillors deserve to be unseated, and I hope that some of you women here who are local plan to unseat these morons that you have in your council, who come along to stand in amongst the mob against women's rights, because they don't deserve a seat on the council. Cowardice women that sell women up the river, they don't deserve to be in politics. And I hope that you unseat them. And if I could remember their insignificant names, I would have said them. So maybe it'll take a local. Okay, who would like to speak? Hi, nice to see you.
How are you?
I am great. Let me do this. Nice and close into the microphone.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
My name is Sally, at Dear Rebel Ada on Twitter, and I work at Queen Alexandra Hospital up the road in Cosham. My views are my own. I want to thank Kellie-Jay Keen for her tenacity and courage and what she has done for ordinary women like me across the world, giving us a space to speak and be heard, while policy writers are deciding over our heads which rights we can keep and which we must forego. I am here to speak about my patients whose rights are absolute. I am very proud to work with some of the best staff I've ever met in 27 years in the NHS, including the cleaning, the catering, the portering staff, and the healthcare assistants, as well as those of us who get more credit. From the age of 16, our patients have had brain and spinal injuries and illnesses, and some very severe. They may have lost all movement, speech, vision, maybe in prolonged unconsciousness. We accompany them on a precarious journey to an uncertain outcome with all the skill, energy, and love that we have. If I seem a little bold in identifying myself, it's partly because my brother died very unexpectedly this year. We may not have many tomorrows left. And if Henrietta Freeman can do it, then so should I. To be a place of recovery, in hospital, we all need the 4 pillars of medical ethics. That is, autonomy, the patient's right to choose, the duty to do good, the duty not to cause harm, and justice, to treat all people equitably. And laws have been created to make us keep to them. These laws grew out of avoidable tragedies, scandals, and mistakes of the past to ensure we didn't repeat them. Yet, an ideology around gender grew and distorted policies to such an extent that we are losing our way. Our culture of patient-centeredness, dignity, and respect is at risk in the NHS. A culture which now directs primacy of self-ID against consent is the promotion of a new hierarchy. And this elevation of staff interests above patients' needs and wishes will certainly harm our vulnerable men too. In 2010, we committed to same-sex accommodation, knowing that women were sexually abused in mixed accommodation. But Annex B exempts people with gender identities, so a man who says he is non-binary is given the choice of a women's bay. He doesn't even have to say that he's a woman. It is enough that he wants a female bay. As if women are furniture. What kind of man would avoid his own sex and sleep alongside heavily dependent and vulnerable women? Why are the women's rights considered subservient to his? Now, the NHS Confederation have gone further, and they place the wishes of staff with gender identities above the needs and wishes of patients. They say it is almost never justifiable that patients can choose the sex of their carer, and say it would never stand up in court. Here's a power imbalance. Patients are not going to be taking anyone to court, so you can override the wishes of your patients without worry. They say there's no reasonable clinical merit in same-sex care. They expect patients to adopt their assertion that a trans-identified man is a woman if he says so, that a non-binary man is not really a man, and will punish them for non-compliance. They say that even people with dementia must be challenged if they express discriminatory views about trans staff, and their family may be removed from the premises. But no other belief is enforcement to being assigned a different patient to work with. It happens to me all the time. The NHS Confederation don't want evidence. They want to lead us down a different path, where simple facts are denied, obvious lies disrupt the trusting relationship between staff and patient, where safe boundaries and certainty are removed from the patient's experience for the benefit and alleged validation of staff. Patients must be told that they are unacceptable. This document encourages a litigious mindset and states that to exceed the wish for same-sex care would likely be direct discrimination. They suggest that any experience of transphobia should merit the person to take the rest of the day off to recover. Really? Well, a patient told my colleague that he'd like to rape her. She ignored it. She didn't take the rest of the day off. They also say that trans and non-binary people should be given all the questions before their job interview with us. All the questions, so they can come with ready, perfect, rehearsed answers. That's not very equitable, is it? So my excellent colleagues who haven't ticked the non-binary box will be at a significant disadvantage. I would not want to work with such fragile staff who consider their own wishes paramount and do not put patients' wishes, needs first always. The NHS Confederation are sowing their own seeds of division in this workforce. My patients' bodies are not a stage for validation. Care is unconditional, and they are not required to be nice. They may be misogynists, they may have committed crimes, they may dislike us intensely, They may shout, spit, and lunge at us. We manage this because we are professionals. We are focused only on their recovery. Justice and equality is a pillar of medical ethics. But NHS Confederation is also out of step with the law. And here are those laws: the Health and Care Act and the Mental Capacity Act. In 2013, a terrible scandal of neglect causing up to 1,200 avoidable deaths was revealed at Stafford Hospital. The inquiry led to heavyweight legislation to prevent this happening again. Fundamental standards under which care must never fall were added to the Health and Care Act, making it mandatory that patients' wishes and preferences are respected under Regulation 9. Dignity, respect and privacy are protected in Regulation 10, and Regulation 11 states that consent is paramount. Numbers 12 and 13 relate to safe treatment and safeguarding from abuse. Regulation 20 sets out a duty of candour when bad things happen. A patient always has the right to request their carer to be of the same sex. And in this Act, it says that a service must provide sufficient staffing. You can never say you don't have enough women. You must increase your staffing. Otherwise, you will fall foul of the law. Remember that 89% of nurses are female, and similar for support staff. It's just not credible that female staff can't be found for intimate care. Now, the Mental Capacity Act protects patients who have lost cognitive capacity, and it was given teeth by this same scandal. After Stafford, a new criminal offence was created of willful neglect. No longer can we say that we were following orders and look the other way. If one of my excellent nursing colleagues in charge of the ward is instructed to accept a man into a female bay, and this man assaults a non-capacitous woman, under Section 44, the nurse could be punished by up to 5 years in prison. We cannot defend the mixing of sex. It is deliberate, willful neglect to stand by and allow it to happen. We can't pretend we know that the presence of a man with women raises risks against the women. We can't claim we didn't know this person was a man. How absolutely idiotic of NHS England to publish guidance that can propel our best nurses into prison and facilitate assault of the most vulnerable women to spare the feelings of a man. Sorry. Our friend Henrietta Freeman is currently in hospital. Needing intimate care, her request for same-sex care was clear. She is weak and unable to speak. Sometimes male staff are sent to her when her mother is taking a break. Sometimes when she is sleeping. If she is not vigilant, or if she had been asleep, they would have touched her against consent. Now her mother has decided not to leave her side to protect her rights to bodily autonomy, and she would like to self-discharge. Many women have a history of trauma because sexual assault is very common. Hospital is one place where we should be listened to and treated with absolute respect. We should not need protection. Alex was a learning disabled young woman in an NHS specialist unit, Walton Hall, who needed same-sex care as she was frightened of men. Undercover filming shows the male carers ensuring 24-hour psychological torture and control. Knowing her fear, they pretended to flood the corridor outside her bedroom with men. It was a game. They called it pressing the man button. Her screams will always haunt me. She is happy now, and her abusers are in jail, but it will be happening elsewhere. The Women's Rights Network found 6,500 police reports of sexual assaults in hospitals had been made over a 3.5-year period. Our safeguarding team tells me that in physical health settings, the alleged perpetrators are almost always staff. There are many more reports of sexual abuse in hospitals which don't make it to the police. Almost never a charge. So where are the perpetrators? Will they be coming to my ward tonight? I have no idea. And I have found that there is a strange corruption of police data too. Many alleged rapists are recorded as female or as having zero sex. Both are legal impossibilities. Rape requires a penis. Why avoid the remaking of evidence and obscuring of truth. Disabled women are almost twice as likely to be victims of sexual violence than able-bodied women. We are left with this bleak reality that in 2023, a woman may come to hospital sick or injured and go home with a rape. No redress. We must change this. We will never give up. Oh, sorry.
I don't know, if you're booing somebody talking about rape victims, I reckon there's something truly fucked up about your little cult of ideology. So, just for the people at home, as Sally was giving her testimony about women who are sexually assaulted in hospital, men in stripy dresses were booing every time we gave her a round of applause. In fact, they're still booing. Can I just say to the man in the stripy dress that came and photographed us, you don't pass. If you use a woman's space, you will make women and girls uncomfortable. Every single one of you. I mean, I'm just letting you know, because you might not know. But if you got a penis, if you were born with a penis, you make women and girls uncomfortable when we're in a bathroom, changing room, toilet, women-only swim session, even actually often in a conversation. Your very existence, you might say, makes us feel uncomfortable, which I think is part of the allure of that particular identity which you put on a daily basis. Because we know, boys, when you're at home, we know that you look in the mirror and you don't see a woman. You may want to. Maybe in a camera lens you sometimes do. But we know in the mirror that you don't. We know when you're in the shower that you know that you're washing, well, maybe not washing, but you know you're doing something to a man's body, because that's the body in which you inhabit. It's a man's body. And can I say to all the 5'2" girls who call themselves men, you're too small, you don't pass, and you've been fed a horrific lie that by pretending to be a man, you will be adorned with the privilege that you perceive that is being a man. It's bullshit. Okay. And while we're on the issue of hospitals, Standing for Women did a piece of research during lockdown on the NHS and the police service. Used to be a police force, but apparently now it's a service, mostly serving those who work in it. So, in the police force and the NHS, we asked every single trust and every single force in England and Wales, how many of you differentiate between a man who says he's a woman, a man who's got the law to lie about him being a woman, and an actual woman? Out of all the NHS trusts, yes, it is doom. So, out of all the trusts, 4 in the country differentiate between a staff member who says he's a woman and a staff member who is a woman. So that's everyone that might wash you, everyone that might come and care for you, whether you're in a coma, whether you're compos mentis, whether you're in an acute psychiatric ward for women. You don't know that the woman, supposed woman, is a woman or isn't, except you do because you've got eyes and ears. So you will know, but the hospital doesn't give a shit. And with the police forces, 0. There's not a single chief constable in the country who has the balls, pardon the expression, to differentiate between a member of staff who says he's a woman and one who is a woman, which means vulnerable suspects who are female being strip searched by men. Now, we've known about this, I've known about this since 2016, and we have it because the Ministry of Justice and the Minister for Policing won't actually have the courage to say that that practice is revolting. So, it's no wonder that in the NHS, we are opening more doors for men to abuse female patients, because actually now we won't even recognise it because we'll say that they're women. So that male violence won't even be recorded. So thank you, Sally, for your work. And if you want to see the NHS and the police report, it's on the Standing for Women website. Yes. Oh. Nice and close to the microphone.
Nice.
Oh, hang on 1 minute. This annoys them. Can we just have a cheer? 1, 2, 3, cheer.
Thank you very much to that woman who's just spoken. 10 years ago, I had a mild brain injury, and let me say, no brain injury is mild. And I had to learn to walk and talk again, and here I am. Now, funny enough, this is a poem I wrote in a hospital. Trans rainbows hang like swastikas, a flag for fools and man's desires, an ideology which aspires that feelings, not reality, rule this hospital. Become a practical normality while biology should be shunned to second place. The flag's reflection in a trace of light pours like poison, pools on sleek linoleum floors, seeps like an abscess into the fractal corridors of the NHS. A gender doctrine where butch girls must be boys, cross-sex hormones, double mastectomy, hysterectomy, brittle bones in their 20s. Gay boys must be girls, eunuchs at the slice of a knife, sterile, impotent, medical patients for life, big pharma honey paid for by our taxpayers' money. Don't let others fight back or have a voice, call them bigots. More, let them lose hope. Mothers who know their child is in the right body. Grandmas who've seen these homophobic, sexist tropes before. Those who know how men become aroused in women's spaces. Predators who prey upon the weak. Keep the women quiet, never let them speak, put them in their places. In the annex, there is no infection. The trans contagion failed to spread. The women-only section they call the no man's land has no rainbows, only strands of a paper moon and stars hanging by a thread above a patient, partially disrobed, lying still upon the cold examination bed. The sonogram probe presses hard, harder into her breast, maps out all the mass. A stranger gently strokes the older lady's head, brings a cup of tea to help her rest, holds her trembling hand, knows of more distress in the months ahead. There's been a change of plan. A scalpel soon will see the cancer gone, chemo and radiation in a heat wave beckon on. There, in the sensible rooms, kindly rooms, they understood, just as in women who have lost a womb, that losing her hair, her breasts, does not make her any less a woman. This is her path in womanhood. My path. I will prevail. I am a woman, adult, human, female. I have to go after her.
There's a couple of boys behind who are really interested in what actual women look like. They keep taking photos of all of you. It's supposed to intimidate you. So I would implore you, if you've got any sort of woman, women, adult, human, female, whatever on your top, I would just, shall we wave? Smile and wave. Hey, hi, hi. Well, just wait until he looks. There he is. Ready? Wait. Ready? After, we're going to say hello, boys. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Hello, boys. Ah, that's what happens when women speak. They pretend not to hear, don't they? I don't think he can hear because he's got a mask on, and the other one, they're obviously not really having a conversation because nobody can hear. Okay. It's a terrible dress. Okay, who would like to speak? Yes.
Thank you very much. Hello, my name is Emma, and hiya. I run the Children of Transitioners website, and that's an organisation for children of trans people.
I don't want you to have
a little bit. Thank you very much. And so, a few things that have happened over the last week or so. I'm getting chucked out of an American Facebook group for talking about autogynephilia because you're not allowed to talk about your father and his condition. That's the thing now. You have to say it's innate, and he just can't help himself. He was born wearing a dress. But what's also happened is we've seen a man feeding a baby from his chest, having taken domperidone in order to lactate. Domperidone is an interesting drug. It gets passed on to the baby, and one of the side effects of domperidone is sudden cardiac death. So, 200 people signed an open letter supporting a man who's quite happy about potentially killing his baby in order for him to feel better. We also saw an academic paper in which people tried to justify a woman taking testosterone throughout her pregnancy because it makes her feel better, even though the risks to the baby are of a disorder of sexual development. That it could be life-threatening, it could definitely be life-shortening. What's going on? I don't know, but these people across here are shouting, shame on you. Well, shame on you, because you want to poison children. You want to kill children. You are poisoning them as babies, you're poisoning them as fetuses, and when they grow up, you give them puberty blockers and you poison them even more. So shame on you! Oh.
That bloke over there in the really bad dress is trying to intimidate women. He's doing it by taking photos. Dave! 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 We're not afraid of you, mate. We're not afraid of you at all. You carry on. Take your pictures. Can't hear you through the mask. Can't hear you through the mask. I'm nearly 50. I'm a little bit deaf. Okay, so these men are the first to cry to the police if you say something they don't like. No woman has a penis. You're a man. You'll stay a man. You'll die a man. You are born male, and we don't care. And stay out of our fucking spaces. Do you understand? Nobody can hear you through your little conspiracy mask, love. Oh, let me hide my identity because I'm so brave. I'm going to go and intimidate women, but I'm afraid of the air that those women breathe. What an absolute idiot. The police today are on the side of free speech, and people's right to assemble. That's why the police are here, so thank you to the police. We don't expect the police to be on our side. We expect the police to be on the side of the law.
It's Ivy.
Oh, Ivy, stop taking pictures. Dave. He looks like a Dave. I don't know. I mean, an Alan or a Dave? Maybe a Brian. Brian! He's a very naughty boy. Okay, who else would like to speak? Oh, hang on. Let's just interrupt this to do some fun. It's a thing where you've got a sense of humour. So anybody that's designed a sign, you can come because there's a prize. It'll be the biggest cheer or the biggest boo. Girls, ladies, is it just you two? Come on. Okay, right. Sign number 1. Is that your favourite? You have to show everyone. Sign number... Okay, and sign number 2. All right, now for real. If sign number 1 is your favourite, cheer now. And if it's sign number 2, I'm afraid it's sign number 2. Sorry. And as part of your prize, you've got a totally exclusive, one-of-a-kind little mini rucksack. But there's also a hat and stuff. Well done, thank you. Rod. No.
I know. I'm not going to drive her home now.
Apparently she's walking home. Okay, who else would like to speak? Yes. I knew you'd do it. I'm going to pin it.
Oh, thank you.
You come really nice and close.
Oh, okay.
Okay, to pick up your voice.
Hi.
All right.
Hi. Can you hear me now?
Loud.
Yeah. My name is Evie, and I just want to read a letter that I wrote to Bridport Council last week. And it's to the leader of Bridport Town Council from a concerned visitor to Bridport. Dear Sir or Madam, I visited Bridport yesterday and had a very nice time. I did, however, visit your public toilets at the car park near the police station and was puzzled by the fact that you'd made the toilets gents for men and unisex for women. You are aware that the incidence of sexual violence perpetrated on one sex by another is virtually always men upon women and children. Please visit the World Health Organization's website on the subject to appraise yourself of the details if you're not already aware. And I put a link. Your public toilets are unmanned and open 24 hours a day according to the signage. And this makes the issue even more worrying. Any man with nefarious intentions can enter the woman's private space without any obstruction. I would ask why you make the women's toilets unisex and not the men's toilets. Making the men's toilets unisex would be safer for all women and girls and young children and not impinge upon men's safety at all. The argument that men who present as women are at risk clearly does not hold water, since they are the stronger sex and do not threaten other men. Women who present as men can make their own decisions about where to go, and they must do their own risk assessment. The decision that they make has no material bearing on other women, girls, and children's safety. I've read that men who present as women claim that they are at risk if they go into men's toilets, and the statistics prove that this is not true. The ONS produced the following document dated between 2021 and 2023, and it speaks for itself, and I've put a link there. Basically, it says there are virtually no attacks. My reason for writing this letter is to inform of the risks to women, girls, and all children created by your making the women's toilets unisex. I am also recording, signed for, the fact that I'm sending this to you in order to show that you've been made aware of the risks, and should any violence against women, girls or other children occur, perpetrated by men or men who present as women, I can show that you've been made aware. With best wishes and hopeful that you will change things, a concerned visitor, anonymous for obvious reasons.
Boo to women speaking. Don't let them speak. In fact, don't let them leave the house. So if you're passing by and you want to know what's going on, the people across there, what they want is they want 6'2" men in dresses in toilets with your daughters, pretty much. They want men who call themselves women to be against your daughters on the sports field. They want your children to go to school, and at 4, 5, 6-year-olds, they want the child and a teacher to decide what that child should be called and what that child's sex is. They want absolutely no limit to the literature that primary school children can read, no matter how sexualised the content. They want more trans crappy books in children's corners in libraries. They basically would like even the mosque to pretend that it doesn't recognise males and females. They want women to be who have babies to be called birthing persons. They want the word mother just for themselves, and everybody else is a birthing person or a parent. Oh, they don't want that. Apparently, they want women to have single-sex spaces where penis is totally prevented from going. Well, thank you very much, boys. They want breastfeeding to be called chest feeding. They want women to be afraid to go out just in case even the spaces which are our own are co-opted and taken over by men. They want the maternity hospital to no longer say expectant mother, but expectant parent. They want to erase all of our language so that we just end up with bonus holes and not vaginas. And if they think that's not what they're stood for, what is it that they think they stand for? The literal erasure of women, our language, our rights, and our spaces. And we're here, boys, to say no, no, no. Right, who's next? I did see some. Yes. Okay, is that right for you? Okay.
Hi everyone, my name is Susie Dent. I'm here from Australia.
Really?
This is my first Let Women Speak. This is the first time I've been to anything like this. This is awesome. So great to see you all here. I'm 61 years young. When I was a little girl and when we were children, we were raised to be seen and not heard. When I became a young woman in my 20s, I realised that I was still not being able to be heard. Men were able to be heard, but women were not. In 2014, I came to England and I decided that my voice should be heard. I was one of the women that helped put Rolf Harris in jail.
Yay!
Coming forward and having my voice heard and being part of one of the biggest court cases in the world at this time helped women have a voice. It was the biggest court case that we ever saw and the biggest fall from grace, and it started the conversation going here in Australia, in America and all around the world where women could be heard and seen and listened to. Sexual assault in the workplace is not on. Women not having rights is not on. I love that we're here now. I love that you are having your voices heard here and that I get to have my voice heard here too. It is so important. And this is a voice for them as well, for everybody here, for not just women, for men and for all people of all, however you want to identify as. Sexual assault is no good. Sexual assault in the workplace doesn't happen. It only happens when we're quiet. We need to speak, we need to raise our voices and we need to be heard. And thank you so much for having me here to be heard.
Oh, well done. So sorry I didn't give you the microphone, but you would have been heard. Oh, wow. Well, thank you, and thank you for coming. And thank you for all the children that you enabled to speak up about what was happening to them too. Because you're right, it does. When people speak and people are brave, it does encourage others to speak and be brave. Unfortunately, when people speak and try to stop others, that also encourages others. So that's why we just have to keep speaking consistently, constantly, without fear. Who else would like to speak? Yes. So I'll come to, sorry, you're just out of my eye line. Thank you. Thanks.
So, can you hear me? I want to talk about this document. This document is Portsmouth's Trans Inclusion Guidance for Schools and Colleges. So, as you'd expect, this document offends in all the expected ways. It's clearly written by the gender Borg, and it stinks of Stonewall and queer theory. It's quite a long document, so I just want to highlight a few points and a few red flags. Its overarching theme is that gender identity should be prioritised above all else. To them, gender ideology is the hierarchy and facts and tangible facts like sex and biology and important factors like clear language and like reality need to be disregarded. So this document, it defines sex and it states that sex is different from gender, but then it proceeds to completely ignore sex for the rest of the document. And then what it does is it conflates sex and gender in all the important areas. This guidance reckons that a child's self-declared gender identity should determine which sports team they play in, which toilet and which changing rooms that they use, and even the sleeping arrangements when they're on a residential trip. This document has no regard at all for how this impacts on the other pupils in the school. On the contrary, it even states in a scenario that's presented on page 30, if anyone cares, that should a child, let's say it's a girl, feel uncomfortable with a trans child, obviously a boy, in her changing room, then she is the problem. According to this document, that girl is wrong for feeling uncomfortable. She's the one who has to find an alternative space to change. She's the one who has to be spoken to and re-educated. Does that sound familiar to what happened to those women who had to allow Leah Thomas into their changing room in Penn State University? It's the same playbook. So this guidance is actively calling to punish girls for their involved instinct to be wary of males when they're in a vulnerable situation. And we know that this is an instinct that in some cases can save our lives. Yet these girls are being told to suppress these natural feelings. They're being told to quash and ignore these sort of spidey senses that we have. Or else. Or else what? Or else they're horrible, bigoted individuals. So this document tells kids not to believe what they can see in front of their eyes. But how does gaslighting them into not trusting their own senses help these girls? This is the opposite of safeguarding. This is destroying their boundaries, and this is setting them up to tolerate abuse. On top of that, this document also endorses breast binding. It expects schools to collude with this self-harming practice, and it even asks them to make accommodations for it. On page 37, it gives an example of a trans child on a residential trip. It states, a young trans man, I mean, this is a document for children, and they call them men, but it says, young trans men often experience a great deal of discomfort when they bind their breasts. No shit. It goes on to say that if they don't want to participate or are unable to participate in activities because of this discomfort, then alternative arrangements should be made. When what this should be saying is this is self-harm, and like any other form of self-harm that is noticed or disclosed in a school setting, parents should be told and help should be sought. But this doesn't do that because this document thinks it's okay to keep significant secrets from parents. It also tells blatant lies about the Equality Act. On page 36 it states, refusing a child or young person access to the changing room of their gender identity would constitute an act of discrimination. We know that's a lie. We know that as well as ignoring single-sex exemptions, this is an incorrect gender identity isn't even featured in the Equality Act. It also doesn't acknowledge that a social transition is a significant psychosocial intervention where schools are not trained or equipped to oversee. But I could go on and on, it's a big document, but you get the gist. Well, I would say no wonder Portsmouth has an issue. This document has helped to manufacture this problem by indoctrinating schools with this dangerous, unevidenced ideology that's propagated by fear and misinformation. It destabilizes children and it harms them. Thank you.
So, people of Portsmouth, have a look at your school, see if it signs up to that dystopian nonsense that means that girls just have to forego their feelings in order to validate normally porn-sick men, of which, if you just look around, you can see some of them right behind you. They will have watched something called sissy porn, and they will envisage themselves as part of that narrative. There are even people marching in pride parades with nappies on, grown men with nappies on, dressed as babies. But I see that maybe it was nap time for some of them, so they didn't come today. So at least that's something. But there's grown women over there, even some with children, who I can only imagine are trying to gain something in their sad little lives by using their children as something interesting because they fail to be of interest themselves. Let me just say to women, if you allow, especially, look, when your kids get to teenagers, we all know, you just hope you put enough work in that they get through it as decent human beings. But when they're primary school, I know. When you're at primary school, it's your, shut up. Like biological sex, you can't do anything about time. When you're, news at 2. A woman is an adult human female. When your child is at primary school or younger, and you allow them to be indoctrinated into this nonsense, and you're part of it often, I'm afraid that makes you a child abuser of the most profound, dystopian, despicable way. Look at that heterosexual couple, all transy. Okay, who else would like to speak? Yes. Hang on one moment. Can you cheer very loudly, please?
This was not my plan for retirement. I spent 40 years in a male-dominated profession, and women were just clawing their way to some kind of equality. And what happened? there's a man in the ladies' toilets, right? 2 years from retirement, I'm like, I can't deal with this shit. And I look the other way. And I'm ashamed, because my Aussie bloke, rugby-playing husband was turfier than me, right? He said, you women better get on this shit or you're gonna lose the right to vote. And if we can't name ourselves as a sex class, we have lost our rights. My plan for retirement was to grow prize-winning roses and maybe go on the Great British Bake Off if they ever let middle-aged white women on again. But I actually, one day, realized that Victoria's Secret had hired a man as a women's underwear model. And that actually sent me over the edge and into the TERF abyss, right? I've been trying to wear Victoria's Secret bras my whole life, and they never made them in my size because my rib cage is too big. Suddenly, they made bras to fit men. Fuck me, right? So I burnt all of my Victoria's Secret underwear, and then I had no knickers. So I'm like, oh, I gotta buy knickers. So I go on the Marks and Spencer's website, and I start reading knicker reviews. Who knew anybody reviewed knickers, right? And they're like softcore porn, obviously written by men who've gone and tried the knickers on in the store, wanked in them, and put them back. And I'm just like, you say this shit out loud and you think, am I the one who's gone crazy? So I found somebody on the Marks and Spencer web team, and I wrote to them and I said, you do realize that you've got men in there pumping the algorithm, right? So the men are actually writing the reviews and they're getting their pervert mates to go in and like the reviews. And so the pervert reviews are coming top of all of the knicker reviews. Do you want this? And the reply I got was, all of the reviews are valid, whatever that meant. I'm like, oh, really? And they're moderated by a human. So an actual human has allowed these reviews to be published, right? And that was it. I slid over the edge into the abyss. I found myself as part of Tribunal Tweets, so. Some of the saddest days of my life were listening to Helen Weberly talk about the vile child abuse that she has perpetrated on children as young as 9 and 10 months, right? An autistic child who could barely speak to the doctor, whose mother spoke for them, who had been in care, who had attachment disorder, right? This is the child they chose to give puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones to. Right? So I don't think I'm ever going to retire from this cause, because this shit is infested. It's in all our civil institutions. It's in corporates. It's a men's rights movement. We had 30 years where you could aspire to be anything you wanted to as a woman and count on there being a safe toilet, right? And maybe a woman's short list, right? And maybe you were only normally sexually harassed. Everyday sexism was rife where I worked, right? But if you could bring the money in, they wanted you. But now, they can actually just advance their mates. So I don't know if it's about revenge. Maybe the period when we had rights will prove to be the aberration, but I'm not going to give up. Thank you.
I do think I think we all ought to start wearing men's pants, because then you can guarantee they don't come with added crusty, dried up male fluid. So I, for one, will be wearing wide fronts from now on. Maybe we can get some made with woman, adult, human, female around them. Maybe we'll call them an X front. There you go. I'm going to trademark it. Don't steal it. We're going to have X front pants for women. We'll call them big girl pants. It's everywhere. Like you say, it's everywhere, which is why you have to all the time. Like, even if it's boring you have to constantly correct and talk about this. Schools, hospitals, doctors, I recently took my son to a dentist, a Bupa dentist, which is now the NHS dentist, and it asked my son on the form, what is gender assigned at birth? And I said to the dentist, he was so happy all the way through the appointment, until I said, can we just talk about that form? I was like, I don't know if you know this, but I'm really shocked that a medical profession would say gender assigned at birth. I mean, there's so many things wrong with that. When my son was born, I didn't say he shall wear dresses. He shall like Action Man and cars. He shall line up cars and ask me to come and see how straight the line. I didn't say any of that. We just recorded the fact that he was male. Oh, I don't know, because he had a penis and testicles. Those were the days. And he just got really, I have nothing to do with the forms. And I was like, okay, well, I have nothing to do with the teeth, but I still know that this form is a load of nonsense, and actually it matters what sex my child is when he's sitting in a dentist chair, because his jaw and his teeth and everything is going to be totally different to a female jaw. And if we look at the jaws behind, we can see that that's true. Their big skulls and their big jaws look very different to our more feminine, truthful skulls and jaws. No matter what we're dressed like, we still look like women. It's weird that this has become a thing. Even organisations that were supposed to be against everyday sexism, they're into all-day misogyny. Apparently, being sexually harassed is a lot. It's somebody saying, "Oh, you look nice, love." Apparently, these days is a lot worse than a man getting his cock out in a women's toilet. So that's where some of those movements are. Lady here. Is that okay for you?
Hi everybody. So this is my second Standing for Women event, and the first one where I felt, yeah, is it high enough?
Yes, well...
I'm the height of the average man, you see. It's all, the world's, yeah. So thanks very much everyone. It's lovely to see you all here. So 25 years ago, I was at university. I was doing a PhD, and it was in women's and gender studies. And I read all this stuff, and which is the stuff that's infiltrated all our institutions now, and it's really mucking up everybody's lives so much. And it never occurred to me that it was anything more than an academic exercise. It was like science fiction, if you like. It was a filter through which to explore ideas, and it was never supposed to go further than that. And I think the fact that the institutions are now, pumping all of this out is just a shame on the institutions. I guess I feel like I should apologise for the fact that I was part of the crew that let that genie out.
You should.
But since then, and since I first heard about what was going on, I guess my instinct was to do research. And I kept researching, and I've gone to peer-reviewed documents, and I've looked at a wide range of media. I've listened to lots of people, and the more I research, the worse it gets. The surer I am that this has to be stopped. We have to all do as much as we possibly can, and that means even people like me who are inclined to be certainly quieter at work than I want to be, but getting hopefully braver as we go, but a lot more TERFy in my real life, if you like. We all have to push back. We can't give any more ground. We've got to just stand still at the very least and push forward when we can. And I think that, let's see, and challenge wherever we can, particularly again, it's the education institutions, it's the schools, it's the colleges, it's the universities, because they are more vulnerable. They don't understand what, they feel like their natural tendency to push out, to want to remove themselves from their families, to find their own identity, is being thwarted, it's being used against them, and they're being lost, and they're being damaged. And I can't stand that, so no more. Thank you very much. You're brilliant.
Well done, well done. Well, there's no fixing some people once you've taken puberty blockers and sterilised yourself, kids. But nice song choice. Who else would like to speak?
Can you hear me?
Good.
Okay, so I just want to point out a couple of things. There's a troon with a beer gut that he's probably trying to pass off as like a pregnancy bump or something, and a gunge tunnel most likely. That's a Rex Landry quote, by the way. I've just witnessed my brown sister being racially fucking abused by one of these trans activists, telling her to go home. Like, they've got no shame. I just wanted to point this out. And also, this is my birth TERF, and I'll TERF wherever the fuck I want. So you can tell me to go home, but I'm not fucking going home. I'm done. Oh shit.
Okay, let's throw a chinzia amongst the pigeons.
And that's from the Hampshire ladies. Thank you. Oh, you're on my TERF, Pompey TERF. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. Oh no, my name is Chinzia, a prominent Pompey TERF.
Really, really close to
Okay. Thanks to KJ's fight against police harassment by hideously ugly men. They use the police to. Oh, I'm sorry. Am I so sorry?
It's all right. You're going to be really loud.
Okay.
This is your moment.
I know. I'm so
you're
sorry.
Gonna do it.
Okay. Thanks to KJ's fight against police harassment, Portsmouth police cannot be used by hideously ugly men as a political weapon to silence women. In this city, we are free to say trans women are men. Now free from shackles, I can say without fear of prosecution, men faking female are selfish creeps. And we will make damn sure men pretending to be female are removed from our female-only space. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry.
All right, that was silly. Anyone else want to speak? Yes. And you, of course we've got time. Can I, just before you do, can I just say this? No woman has a penis! No man has a vagina!
In 1913, there was a march in Britain by those campaigning non-violently for women's suffrage. It became known as the Great Pilgrimage. Women marched all round England and Wales, and 50,000 converged for a rally in Hyde Park, our regular Standing for Women venue. 6 routes were established, and one of these was the Portsmouth route. Although no one has likely walked quite as far today, your efforts are no less appreciated. Our links as women standing together go back a long way, and may the courage of those suffragettes and their modern counterparts inspire us to find our voices, holding the line for our children's mental health and physical well-being, our hard-won sex-based rights, and the defence of objective truth. As to those who consider us exclusionary bigots for expressing views such as sticking a violent man in a bad wig in a women's prison or stopping puberty in its tracks might not be such a great idea, your reality is not mine. I've never experienced such a degree of diversity and inclusion as afforded by this group. Women and their male supporters, reflecting all generations, races, political persuasions, and life experiences, united in a common goal. That goal is to protect the language that clearly defines women and girls and our rights in law. That goal will only be achieved if enough of us speak out to make our views known to those around us and those in power. You may think much of this doesn't affect your day-to-day life. It possibly won't matter until it does. Your teen daughter in a female changing room, finding herself alone with a man. Your elderly female relative, wishing to receive same-sex intimate care, denied that right. Your daughter's sporting opportunities crushed by male cheats. Your children taught the sexist and dishonest concept that their thoughts, feelings, and interests are somehow indicative of them being the opposite sex. The list goes on. All of this has been said many times by many people over the years, but it appears we need to keep saying it. We have a museum in Portsmouth that houses a dialect map for the area. One of the words on it is dinlo, meaning a stupid or foolish person. To describe the adults pushing gender ideology as such would be charitable. And we will keep being vocal and lobbying on this crucial topic until their voices recede and sanity is restored. Thank you.
Well done. Thank you so much. I would like to say before we finish, and I know that other women want to speak, so I would like to say thank you to the women, the local women who organised this today. We are so lucky here at Let Women Speak that so many women recognise the importance of these events, that they do work really very hard in order to facilitate them. And then we have these remarkable stewards that sometimes travel to other countries as well as other places in the UK to make sure that you women who attend are safe, and they do it with humour. They often join in with whatever music is being played from the other side. It's very funny because you really do see a bunch of grown adult women dealing with tantruming toddlers with grace and humour. So thank you very much to the stewards. And also, I just want to say thank you very much to the TRAs who make it so easy for passers-by to understand the legitimacy of their arguments. And they see a group of us saying, we would like the right to have female-only spaces, and we would like the right to talk about it. And then they see the other side, and there is no point at which a passerby who hasn't yet made up their mind thinks, do you know what? I think they've got a point. I think I would like my teenage daughter to bind her breasts and go in a toilet where some random bloke comes in, maybe has a little pleasure with himself and some Marks and Spencer's knickers before he reviews them. I don't think anyone's persuaded by that. So as always, the TRAs do so much of our work for us. And thank you to all of you for being so stupid and naive. Hi.
Hello, everyone.
Woo!
Oh, sorry.
Surprise, surprise. You may know I'm a woman and a feminist and a lesbian, so I have written a poem about my vagina. But it's dedicated to the men over there. My vagina isn't designer. It doesn't require a dilator. It won't close up like a scab on my knee. It won't lick shit when I try to pee. It's a tunnel of life, not a one-way street. My vagina was made by my mother. Your vagina is a manhole without the cover. My vagina regulates itself like a boss. Your vagina often leaks pus.
Oh!
That's what I'm saying. My vagina isn't designer. It's natural, like the moon and stars. Unlike yours, which is made from bits of your ass. My vagina isn't designer. It wasn't made by a tip-top doctor. My vagina is nature's flower. Your vagina is rotten and sour. My vagina is a doorway to creation. Your vagina is an abomination. My vagina isn't designer. It won't win any awards. Your vagina looks like it was made from the axe of a Viking horde. My vagina isn't designer, but it does bleed each month. Yours does too, but only because they put the plumbing in wrong. My vagina isn't designer. I've had her all my life. Your vagina smells like a rat crawled up there and died.
Oh my God!
It's had to happen. I'm sick of them talking about their rock pockets.
Oh fucking bollocks!
My vagina.
It's all right. We still got you.
My vagina has many names. Lady Garden, Pom Pom and Quim. Your vagina looks like someone went for drilling for oil in a tin. My vagina isn't designer, but it gives me pleasure all night. Your vagina looks like it was installed by the blind, leading the blind. I'm nearly done. My vagina isn't designer. In fact, it's womb made. Your vagina looks like it's held together with gaffer tape. My vagina will be with me from cradle to the grave. Your vagina looks like someone tripped and fell on a lathe. So you can boast about your rat pocket, your Frank and Fanny Gunge Tunnel Man Cave. Just remember, yours is a bucket, but mine gave entrance to everyone that's ever been made. All right, I just wrote that, so I wasn't practiced. To happen.
Thank you so much. You know that when you're going home, when you're all quiet, you'll hear Archer's voice going, "My vagina." It'll be like a non-musical earworm. Who else would like to speak? Okay. Right. I'm going to say that. I'm really pleased that we came to Portsmouth. We've been wanting to come for a long time because you have such a nightmare of a council, and clearly we've heard today that your schools are captured, and it just has to stop. There is not a single child that should be told that it's possible to change sex. Look, whilst these kids are confused and many of them probably can't see a real thing to aim for in their lives, they're fixed on this because it might be the only thing they can control. But there is no magic sex change at the end of this destroying rainbow. There isn't. There is not a point at which it will ever be enough. No matter how much testosterone you take, no matter what parts of your body you cut off or cut out, no matter whether you slice off your penis, invert your testicles, you know you'll never be a woman. And you can demand that we say it, but you know we don't think it. And so, this ends now. We stop this now. We break this spell by speaking, and today, no matter what they did, they could not do anything, and we let women speak. So we'll say it one more time because it's worthwhile saying. No woman has a penis. No man has a vagina. There is no such thing as non-binary. And transitioning children is profound abuse. So I will round up as I always do. If you can stand beside someone who may have once tweeted something you didn't like very much, then I promise we will win. If you can come and stand and be counted, even though you know there will be morons in stripy dresses trying to take photos of you to make you feel intimidated and afraid, then I promise we will win. And do you know why else we're going to win? Because